Welcome to Mam's Talk or Mam's Talk Survivor, episode 2, a sad one. It's very difficult to see our buddy Nick go out the
Mhm.
way that he did, but
Mhm.
we're gonna dive into it today, and thank you for being here as always, my lovely wife Jess.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. We have no guests today. I think
Mhm.
this is the first time ever.
Yeah,
Usually we will have like at least someone here if we don't have an exit interview, but no, it's just us.
just us. So you're welcome.
So you're welcome. We will try to get a separate exit interview post up with Nick at some point. He's just a little busy at this time. So, but I would love to hear his thoughts,
Certainly.
definitely.
Yeah. You ready to get started?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna take the lead there.
I know, I was waiting for you.
All
Um,
right. Anyway,
okay, so where shall we start? What do you think the most interesting part of this episode was for you?
I feel like the game is really like ramping up in certain places,
Mhm.
especially on the aces. I mean, we were just like sitting around for so long doing nothing.
Mhm.
Um,
Certainly, for
and
a long time.
a long, long time. And I think it was me. I could be misremembering, but I was like, what if we all just decided to just have game conversations?
Yeah, I think it might have been you, but I was like, thank God, because I really didn't want to be the person to start. Um,
I think no one did, and I was like, I'm getting stir crazy, and I know everyone feels the same way, so let's just like call out the elephant in the room here, and let's all just break off and do whatever.
well, the problem was that there was game talk happening. It just was like
Right.
very under wraps, and
Hmm.
there was this like kind of weird consensus that we weren't talking game because we were so well meshed as a tribe, but then there was like a lot of like secrecy happening. So I was
Yeah.
happy with it. And no one was inviting me into conversation. So me personally, I was feeling very stressed out by the fact that like I had not really talked to anyone. The like first game conversation I have is the one that's in this episode pretty much, which is before we actually made the like official
Hmm.
to talking game, but
Yeah.
like I hadn't talked to like anyone except for Gabby briefly. So I was like getting really stressed out about
Right.
like,
Yeah, we weren't talking game, but it was all a ruse. It was
of
all
course,
a ruse.
it was all a ruse. I
Because
was
no one
very
knows how to say his name.
well. It's also just like and in the past two seasons, I think that we actually have been pretty good at this like intentional game talk because we know we have limited time and we know that it's going to happen regardless, so we might as well just start it. So I think that the fact that this season we didn't have that like going in, we had like that whole first hours long round where that wasn't happening, and it was a very small camp space, so I think we were all getting really stressed out about like there's really no way to hide that you were talking game, so it was
Right.
hard
It's
to
like, who
do
are we all kidding here? Obviously, we're all talking. But yeah, especially I think for people like you and me who like
yeah.
already had such a big target on our backs, it's like, well, we don't want to come out swinging like, playing too hard too fast. So
Yeah.
yeah, which
Yeah,
obviously I got a little caught up in, but
yeah, I think that for me, I watched this back and I'm like, oh my, like I'm pretty sure every game conversation almost I have is in this episode and there's not many. It's just like I was very low key and I was not like necessarily being brought into conversations because I think people were kind of wary of
hmm.
the target on my back. And obviously Steven is talking about me as like the number one person to go home. And I was
Yeah.
getting really out about that. But I do think that like I kind of couldn't really, I think that I
And
couldn't really think about
I think
it.
that was the right way to play it
Yeah.
though, because like I
Yeah.
think people were like kind of starting to discount that
Yeah.
like to whatever, degree that was. But like Steven obviously stayed strong
Yeah.
in that, but we can see other people kind of not really buying into that altogether. And I think it's because you weren't really doing
Yeah.
much. And but like that's a strategy.
Yeah. I think that the thing that really helped me here is everyone else was overplaying a lot. So I
Yeah.
think that like the it was good and bad. because there was a lot of
Yeah.
game happening without me, but it also like there were so many wild cards happening at the front forefront of the tribe that like that was kind of the dynamic happening. The gaming was it went off swinging. Like
Yeah, I guess let's just stay on the aces while we're here. Like,
yeah,
who do you think was like overplaying and like why?
I don't know. I think that you're definitely doing a lot. I don't I don't know if it's necessarily bad, but you
Hmm.
are in like every conversation for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I think that Allie is a bit bold here with her game. I think that she's trying to take a different
Mm.
approach than she took in the past. And it's definitely different. I don't know that it's the same like likability that she has. She's kind of
Mm.
running this a bit more of what seems to be a tight ship, if you will, which I think
Gotcha.
is
So you're
kind of
saying she's unlikable.
no, I just think that she's coming out a little bit
Hmm.
more intimidating than, say, approachable.
Gotcha.
But then, of course, the boys are off the walls.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just crazy. So,
Yeah, and listen, uh, there's the girls versus boys thing happening.
I
Let's
know.
just be clear. The girls thing would not exist even as an idea
Mhm.
without the boys forming the little man club
Certainly.
first,
I
okay?
love CJ, like, CJ, like, double bluffing about the boys' alliance to you. And,
So
like,
stupid.
Steven is like,
I was
every
like, "Oh, I'm gonna use that against you guys.
everyone's
Thank you."
name, I think everyone's, I mean, of course, mine and yours particularly, but Steven was running around saying almost anything to anyone. Ella saying anything to anyone. Like,
Whoa.
I, I
That
couldn't,
no. Okay, if we're gonna talk about an overplayer,
yeah,
Ella this episode for
yeah, I like
sure.
couldn't even track what her like thought process was because it felt like every single thing she was presented with, she would have an opposition for, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
Like it would be like Gabby would suggest they work together, and she'd be like, "Well," and then but then they would talk. Like it was, I don't know. She wasn't like opening herself up to the things that were being presented to her because she was kind of like
Yeah.
discounting everything that came her way.
Well, yeah, I'm just like, what is your objective here?
Right.
And I think it was to work with Steven and CJ is kind of what I'm gathering.
I think so. I think that
But yeah, I think she really wanted to be with the boys, but
yeah,
it's odd to me, which is fine. You can work with the boys, but it's
yeah,
odd to me
yeah,
that you have people that are like Gabby, who's like,
yeah.
we should work together, and you're like actively turning it down.
Yeah, that was really the thing. I think that she wanted to like seem I don't know, like mysterious, I guess. I don't know. Like and it definitely is hard to place where her thought process is because of that.
Yeah.
So if that was her objective, I think it works. But
My thought is it's just because she doesn't want people to think that her and Gabby are a duo.
mhm. Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think that it would be much more valuable for her to take the approach of say a Steven and CJ who are like or a GMAC and Roos who are like everyone's already gonna think we're working together, so we might as well actually just work together.
That's
Because it's
fair.
like the target is there, so we might as well reap the benefit of the alliance. You know,
Hmm.
if there's like an obvious duo like that. But also for what it's worth, I don't think anyone was thinking that Gabby and Ella were working together.
Yeah,
um,
I also just there's something about it's not even that she's turning down stuff. Like she would say things like we should do a girls alliance
yeah,
and I'll say it, Steven is an interesting character and then like running to Steven and CJ and be like they want to start a girls alliance. They're
yes,
saying your name.
yes.
And it's like you said that.
Right. Which is like obviously an attempt to sow chaos, but it's
Sure. But it can
inherently
get back to you
I was gonna say
very easily.
it's inherently alienating herself from both groups because she's now the rat and like you can't trust anything that she says because it's all
Right.
yes, you know.
And obviously in this episode we don't like fully put the pieces together, but like Bruce like immediately tells us that like Alice saying that we're saying his name and I'm
Yeah,
like, "Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting." You
yeah,
know.
right. Well,
So,
to be fair, I did say his name. I was
oh,
watching that clip back and I was like, you can see my eyes. I'm just sort of like, uh, uh, yeah, some
well,
people. are
I
saying
was
you're
like, I think everyone's name has come up like
yeah.
in some respect, but
Yeah.
like not. I don't know. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
like
no.
a
I know what you mean.
Bruce
Like
and
there wasn't really a reason for Ella to be up in arms about that in particular. Like I don't think it got her anywhere. I don't think that sewing
right.
that
That's what
scene.
I'm saying. It's like, what's the objective? Like, what is your
Yeah.
goal? Yeah, that's
You're
my
just
only thing.
like,
I'm like, you kind if you're gonna be a snake, you
yeah.
gotta do it with intention, and
Yeah,
it
I
didn't
think
feel
it
like there was a lot of intention behind it.
yeah, I think that the like she was just involving herself in she was making herself the center of like game drama that she didn't need to be a part of and therefore putting herself kind of in the line of fire a bit. I mean, she's
Yeah,
not super brought up this episode or anything, but like I don't think she's necessarily setting a good foundation for herself going
for
forward
sure.
doing that, you know.
Yeah.
So, anything else about
So,
the ages?
um,
It's kind of just
I
chaos city.
would you say
I said it's kind of just chaos city.
it is chaos, but it's
No, it's
juicy. I
good.
feel
This
like
was
we're having
Yeah, this was good
fun.
gameplay. I enjoyed finally being able to like talk game at this point.
Yeah. I
Even
also want to say that I particularly was like, I cannot talk to Jess.
oh,
Like
I know.
the more, the more that I can stay away from her, like the better. Which is why we
No,
didn't have many conversations.
I
But I tried to get you in on the alliance, you know.
yes, preach, preach. I was watching that scene where it's me, you, GMAC, and Roos, and you're like, this is the first time I've talked to you about like, and I was like, well, that's not true, but that's fine.
Okay, to be fair, I think it was kind of out of context, but it was because I walked over with GMAC and
Mhm.
he said, which is cut out, um, I haven't talked to Roos yet
Mm,
about the alliance because we had already like formed the group, but we hadn't
right,
talked to the
right.
group yet about it. So that's why I said like, and I
Yeah,
haven't talked to you about this yet.
yeah.
It was kind
Right.
of a throwaway comment, but
Yeah.
it made it into the
Yeah.
episode.
I was like, is Kay planting seeds that we're very not talking game right now? I mean, again, we like weren't. I was
Yeah,
definitely like also keeping my distance from you.
which is yeah, duh.
I mean, I again wasn't doing much of anything, if I'm being honest. For better or for worse, I was just not really involved. And you
Yeah.
know, it is what it is. So, um, you're like actually the person I talk to the most.
Oh,
So that's
well,
maybe bad. But it's fine.
yeah. I will say I enjoyed watching Roos and GMAC behind the scenes.
Yeah. I really like their duo. I think that in a way that I mean Steven and CJ are doing a similar thing, but I think that I like the direction that Roos and GMAC are headed more than CJ and Steven. I think Steven
Yeah,
and CJ are kind of doing a sort of like we're gonna run this like a bit of an alpha game, whereas I think
right.
that PMAC and Roos are doing a bit of a we're gonna present it
Sigma
this way. Yeah, a bit of a
game.
Sigma game. We're gonna present this way to these people and present this way to these people and keep all of our options open, but we're
Yeah.
pretty much play the
I
middle,
think
but I mean
that's super smart. I and they're like
sure.
they do have this very like agreeable like vibe to them and makes them feel like I thought they were fully with us like for sure, but
Yeah.
and it seems like they
I
were, but also like that and
yes.
we're gonna keep this door open, which is smart.
Right. Yes. My yeah, because I actually was kind of like running my mouth a little bit about Roos and GMAC just to get the heat off of me because I figured people were talking about me or you, and I didn't want
Hmm.
you to go because I knew that we could, you know, work together potentially in the future. So you were not on my radar as someone I wanted to leave. And so I was like, okay, let's get the boys under the bus. So I was like were like I was worried that that was going to get found out in that moment, but in that like they fully turned me around like after we talked to them. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I was against them and then in one
Yeah.
conversation with them I was like no, I'm with you guys, like we're good, you know. So it was a really good social dynamic from them.
Yeah. They're playing an undercover
Mhm.
game right now, and
Yeah.
I'm respecting it. I
Yeah.
really am. But I think that's about it for the aces.
Yeah, not much else.
Yeah. I mean, we don't go to tribal, so there's nothing really
Yeah.
interesting there. But I guess let's talk about the effects of exile.
Yes. Yeah, we are very on the Aces tribe very dedicated to finding out like what happens with the Lady Luck tribe because of the exile aspect of it. And yeah, it was interesting to see the effects that being gone for that first round can really have on a player. Which I think our intention sending Nick to exile was to set him up for success, but it seems like that is not necessarily what happened for him.
Yeah.
So
And
uh
hindsight 2020, we were stupid for that. Why did we
yeah.
do that?
No, I don't know why we did that. That was very silly.
Like, duh, they're gonna realize that we are trying to
Yeah.
protect him. Like, it wasn't subtle.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And we came up with the decision very quickly.
Yeah. And
Like
then we
it
did
was
the same thing with Joe.
yeah. I think actually, here's the thing. I don't actually think us sending Nick to exile was the nail in the coffin. I think it was
No.
sending.
Yes. I
It
mean,
was,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
if
The
we
back to
had
back.
sent, yeah, I think if we had sent someone like Dom or something, we, from our perspective, the breaking of this,
Hmm.
big alliance on that tribe would maybe have actually gone better had he been like not been
Yeah.
there,
It was just very clear that we were like saving the outsiders.
Yeah,
Um,
which of course then leads them to Nick
yeah,
because Lydia's gone.
it's not a sustainable plan,
Yeah,
and we should have been smart enough to think like
yeah.
one step forward.
I will say the exile thing really stressed me out. I like did not like making those decisions on the fly.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously had time to think about who we would send to exile for the second challenge because we had done it once. Like if we win, we will have to send someone to exile. But with the Nick thing, like I feel like I my head was completely in the wrong like direction of like what I wanted to come out of someone going to exile.
Yeah.
Like I think it becomes much clearer like the intention of exile later in the game, rather
Yeah.
than like the first few times that we do it. So
Yeah. So poor Nick.
yeah, poor Nick.
Definitely setting him up for failure.
Certainly.
But I will say, I think that there's a lot that he still could have done.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he was playing it very coy when he came back from exile, and he should have hit the ground running a bit more because everyone else had already hit the ground running. They'd already voted out Olivia.
Yeah, I
So,
get let's talk about the dynamics on that tribe before we
yeah,
really dig
yeah.
into this. What are your thoughts?
I think it's interesting to see. I think that it's actually way less cut and dry than I had thought it was. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, I feel like there was this perception that like this big alliance of Rochester people is set in stone, but like I really like it seems like there was a really good path to get someone like Grant out instead. Which I think would have been really interesting to see that big alliance kind of crumble right then rather than just pick off the
Yeah.
most next most makes sense outsider person.
It seemed to me like Dom was just the loudest one and
Yeah,
no one really wanted to ruffle feathers, so they just kind of went with it.
yeah,
No one else was like really firmly presenting another
yeah,
plan. Except for like Grant. Grant was kind of like, but Vanessa.
yeah,
Um, but that's just kind of my take on that.
yeah. I think so. I think that that is kind of Dom's game, to be honest. That's kind of what happened in the first round.
Hmm.
He, as we've described, I don't remember if we said this in the podcast, but his mob boss mentality of like what
For
I say
sure.
goes kind of thing. Not that that's like he's much more subtle about it. Like that's why it works. But he
Yeah.
is just like this is what I want to happen, and I'm not hearing another option.
Right. And I think that's definitely it's to a fault at some point because you do have some people like pushing back on that and he's like very firm in that place. Um so I'm just like, you if you're working with an alliance, you have to be working with an alliance. And it
Yeah,
seems like you're
because
just calling the shots right now.
yeah, you don't want to be, and you don't want to be in that position either. Like it seems desirable to be at the top of the alliance, but you're going to be the first to go once people start realizing that threats need to be voted out. Like you don't want to be someone who's in a clear
Yeah.
position of power. So,
And if you have this big alliance right now that's like impenetrable,
mhm.
it doesn't really matter who else goes.
Right. Like you should be fine with anyone who's not your core people going. Because at this point, it's like to Dom, Nick or Vanessa doesn't matter. Like
Right.
that it like truly doesn't matter. Honestly, I mean, I think Vanessa makes more sense for like people in the alliance because it cuts Max off from Vanessa and keeps
Yeah.
Max close to the other people in that
And
alliance.
I I do see the argument that like then it would piss Max off, but
Yeah,
like maybe get his input and then do whatever he wants. So then it feels like, oh, now Max made that decision instead of like
right.
I made the decision
Yeah.
and you just kind of have to like
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
as
making
I,
it seem, even if you're not taking any other options into consideration, making it seem like it was a collaboration is always the way to go.
Definitely.
Like you
For
definitely
sure.
don't want to make it seem like you're telling people what to do because that will immediately sour the vibe of your alliance.
Yeah. So
You
it
want,
seems right now that I mean, it just based on body language and what was said, Max doesn't seem super happy with the decision. Um, Caroline obviously does not want it to happen. And
yeah.
then Liz and Vanessa just seem kind of like I'll do whatever kind of vibe.
Yeah, that was what was surprising to me. Like I wish that there was like that group of people, the group of people with Caroline, Liz, Vanessa, and Nick coming together to vote for somebody
Well,
else.
that was so interesting watching that
I
back.
know.
It's like you guys just formed a
Yeah.
majority alliance
And you're not going to use it.
and you're not gonna do anything with that.
And
I
also
mean,
the
I understand like Liz and Vanessa maybe not
uh,
wanting to make waves, but like Caroline and Nick, you actively don't want this to happen.
I
Why
am
aren't we
actually
doing more?
shocked at how Nick seemed to think, and I guess he was just reading it wrong, but Nick seemed to think that he didn't have to crawl out of a hole. Like you know what I mean? Like he didn't seem like he was like fighting for his life, like in like a Hail Mary
Yeah,
way, which I guess is just like he thought he was more secure than he was.
yeah,
But I feel like coming back from exile, missing a tribal, like not really having any kind of precedent for understanding what the tribe dynamics are at all, you should
yeah.
probably really like think about a really last ditch effort of how to keep yourself safe here.
Yeah, because like inevitably you're just gonna be like the extra person in that case, so you need to make yourself seem not expendable in whatever way that is, you know. But yeah, that's just about and then like I don't really understand why like Caroline's alternative was trying to get it on Vanessa after they just formed this four-person alliance and it's like you have her in your corner now. Even if you don't want to stay loyal to that, it's like you could keep Nick
Yeah.
and then you all can vote for Grant, which it seemed like they would have
That's
done.
that is what I was confused about is I was shocked at how they those four like really came together on Grant in that moment and then like it didn't go anywhere. Like they
And
all
I
were
think
like,
it's just because no one presented like a
yeah,
firm plan.
yeah. It was
It's just
just
one of
like Grant, they listed like a myriad of reasons why it should be Grant. Grant will be the most likely to flip at the merge. Grant is known as a schemer. Grant is not valuable for the tribe game, like because of his underhanded way of playing. Like there were so many reasons why it should be Grant over someone both like Vanessa and Nick who are very like as far as they present themselves team players in this way. Like I think that both of them seem more valuable to the tribe's morale than Grant would
yeah.
just from the outside perspective.
And
Um,
I think
it's
it
easy
just
to
comes sorry, go ahead.
sorry, it's just like easy to spin that story. Like it writes itself, you know?
Yeah, and I was saying I think it really just comes down to that first conversation that was had with the with Liz, not Liz, with Caroline, Grant, and Dom, where they're
Mhm.
deciding between um Nick and Vanessa.
Yeah,
So Caroline's like, well, the other option is Vanessa. And it's like,
right.
you don't have to do that. And I think there's like a this like idea that everyone needs to be in on it. Like you don't want to leave people out of the vote. And like generally speaking, I think that that is true. But when it's directly going against your own self-interest,
Mhm.
maybe you go for the 4-3, like it's okay, like leave them on the outs of the vote. And hell,
I
you could probably get Max if you ask them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I honestly think that making a split vote, except for the rare, like, the risk that someone flips and then because you only have one
Yeah,
up, it changes. But when it's not you, like, it's worth the risk because, like, it's not like Caroline's going home. The worst thing
right.
that happens is her plan fails and then Nick still goes home, you know?
Right.
But,
Yeah.
like, I think that that's interesting and it also creates, like, you're now in the position. Like now Caroline has power over Dom and Grant because they were not in that vote and Caroline was.
Right.
So
She
like
takes hold of that. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, is it worth getting rid of like your number one or two ally just so everybody is like happy? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think that she was a bit caught up in the fact that she had a position in this alliance and wasn't trying to
I
make
think
waves and for
so.
her to get ousted from it. But it's hard to remember in the moment that like you as an individual have the ability to like shift the power in
Mm-hmm.
many different ways. Like one vote can really like one vote where Dom is on the outs, I feel like immediately changes the vibe of like now Dom had no power in that and that changes
Yeah.
everything.
God, and honestly, I think if you had gotten the girls in on it too, I think there's a world where you could even get Don to vote out Grant, to be honest.
Yeah, they're not really
To be to be
working closely
honest.
together. They actually have completely different opinions about what should happen like in
God, just spin something about how he was being like sussy
shady.
last round
Yeah.
and like I don't know. I just did not like how that went down.
Yeah, honestly, they could very easily have been like, I really thought it was weird that Grant wanted to save Olivia so bad.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a team player. I don't think that he is gonna be good for this alliance long term. And then boom, Grant's gone.
Yeah. I also think there's a trend of people like just hoping for the best.
I think
And it's
so.
like, no, you have to like make it happen.
Yeah.
Sorry to like be on my soapbox right now, but like but it's like Olivia last time. It's like, why aren't you playing your shot in the dark? I
Right.
mean, there's other things she could have done too, but like simply like doing the most that you can do to get yourself there instead of just being like, I hope people are telling me the truth. It's
Yeah.
like if your gut's telling you they're
Well,
not
the
telling
funny
you the
thing is that
truth.
Olivia knew they weren't telling her the truth. Like she
Well,
knew
she
she
thought that she had like convinced enough
yeah,
of people. Like she knew that
yeah,
there were some people against her, but I'm like, girl, people are
yeah,
talking about you. Do
yeah,
something,
right. Yeah, and
And it's the same thing with Nick here.
I've definitely been guilty of that in past seasons too, because like I think about my Manhattan game and that's kind of what like got me kicked like
Yeah.
like I wasn't willing to sacrifice my comfy position of inaction to like make moves happen, even though it was like it should have been a last ditch effort of like this is my like it's me going or I do something about
Yeah.
it.
And like that's the shit that like people respect when you
Yeah.
get to the end, Like
Hmm.
you're taking those risks and you're making
Yeah.
those moves. People don't like or respect really when people are just like floating
Yeah.
along and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
So, that's a word of wisdom for everyone playing in the future.
Yes.
Make it happen.
Make it happen,
Period. You
queen.
can quote me on that.
That was so Jeff of you. Thank you.
Kay
Thank you
has
for your words.
spoken. But yeah, so that's my take on that.
I think that's a good take. I think that that is sort of what happens in these games, and it's I think more likely to happen with our games because people aren't necessarily playing as hard as they maybe would if there was more on the
if
line.
there was more on the line. Well, in my mind, I'm like, that
Well, that's
makes
what
me
I'm
want
saying.
to,
I think
because
so.
there's nothing on the line, like,
Yeah,
let's play a little risky, like,
right. Like, what do you have to lose?
what
Zero
do you have to
dollars?
lose? $0.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
make good television, you know what I'm saying?
I think
Yeah.
people are afraid of looking stupid. I think that that's a
Sure.
really big part of it, honestly. Like, I think people are afraid to make a Hail Mary shot and then look like a fool thinking it might work. Whereas, like, they would rather just sort of be like, I know it's me and I hope I make it out, like I don't
Yeah.
know. But I agree with you. I think people have to get out there and go.
And that's your quote. Make it happen. Get out
Get
there
out
and
there and go.
go. Put it on a sticker.
Sorry,
Love
hats.
it. Make it
Make
happen
it
and
happen.
then
Get
get
out
out
there
there and go. Wonderful. The back says get out there and go.
and go.
Amazing.
We're gonna get them made.
Cool. Okay, before we get to the inevitable ending of this episode, I do just want to do you have anything to say about the challenge?
Um, Not really. I just want to say it was so hard to see what those things said when you take your blindfold off and you were like,
Oh, I thought you meant on camera because I was like, oh boy, with those smudgy.
"Oh no, I know." Well, that's what made me think of it because I couldn't read anything on the camera, but it reminded me of when you were playing and you take your blindfold off and then it's like the
Yeah.
sun is in your face and there's like these reflective poster boards and you're like
Yeah.
and you just drank something and you have to
Yeah.
figure out what that was. I
That was a
enjoyed
fun
that challenge.
one. That was
Yeah.
fun. That was fun. I didn't like what I ate, but
What did you do?
I had pickle juice and apple cider vinegar, like two of my least
I was
favorite
gonna say.
flavors of all time. But, I because I hate them, I knew them and I said, "Boop, boop, boop."
Yes. Well, I remember that was the deciding factor of why I thought you'd be good at this challenge
Yeah, because I
because
almost sat out, yeah.
yeah, because we were like, oh, you're not gonna want to do the gross thing, but like because you are picky, you'll recognize
Yeah.
flavor of things that someone who doesn't hate them might not.
Right. I also want to say I purposely have not had a gross food eating challenge the past two seasons when I designed it because I get grossed out.
And that's fair.
So, and
This
then
wasn't really
it
gross to me.
wasn't too bad. I mean, the fact that they were just little shots, it was like palatable, but
I think it
some
was.
of the ones that they have on these challenges, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
"Ugh."
I mean, the one where they do like the smoothie and they like you spin a wheel for your ingredients and then make the smoothie.
I couldn't do
I
that.
would have been so like if you had to do a smoothie with like I can't even think something savory and some like a fruit, like oh my God, forget
No.
about it. But the
I'm glad that it wasn't that. I'll
no,
say that.
it was good that it was like juices. Like I was like, I
Yeah.
can handle a juice that's gross or like a hot sauce or like something like that.
Yeah.
I'm glad there wasn't any like mayo or
No,
mustard or
don't
anything.
put that into the universe.
We're
We
like the
don't need
two
that.
pickiest eaters on the planet, so
Yeah. That in like a liquid.
can you imagine doing like a shot of mustard? I remember when I remember when we were watching whatever the Amazing Race season was where they do the mustard tasting and we were
Yeah.
like, we would be so bad at this.
Yeah, pretty rank. Um, so yeah, that's why we haven't done that before, but this was okay.
This was
But
okay. I liked how close the challenge was. I was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my God,
yeah.
so stressful. I also like
Yeah.
this lifting up Gabby at the end.
Yeah. I do have a confession.
Yeah.
I did that to put a target on her back.
Wow. You're so sweet.
Yeah. Sorry.
I thought you were just having fun.
Well, I was having fun, but I said, I'm gonna put Gabby on a pedestal. Gabby won this.
Gabby won
Gabby
this.
did this.
Wow, you're
Look at
thinking
Gabby. Look
8
at
steps
Gab. We
ahead.
get her out and not me. Gabby did this.
Gabby
Look.
also had to pee, and she said, "I'm
Yeah, I'm
gonna
gonna
pee."
pee. But yeah, I remember when we were deciding like who the last
hmm
person should go was. I was like, ladies and gentlemen, Gabby.
Yeah,
I don't want to be the hero of this
yeah,
story. That's for sure.
that's for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess.
So
I
that
feel
was just
like
a little behind the scenes of my brain.
honestly, like that makes sense, but I also think that for me, I like really felt like I needed to be valuable in the challenges, or I was
That
done,
is so
or I was
fair.
done so.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, obviously the best place to be in the challenges is the middle. Like, just
Yeah.
be just good enough at the
Well,
challenge.
we both got our answers
Yes.
right. So I
Yeah.
think that's middle enough. I don't need to be the
Yes.
one who like wins the
I
challenge.
definitely didn't need the
Yeah.
glory. Certainly not. But I did feel like the thread that I was hanging on by was, is she valuable enough in
We need
the
her
tribe?
for challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've
That's
never had like a challenge girl or anything.
we saw you with the paddle girl.
We saw you at the paddle. I have to be, I think I said this in the last podcast. It was so much easier than it looked. Everyone was like, you did so
Whoa.
incredible. But I'm like, I can't express how hard it was to like make them leave their hole if I wanted them to.
I
Like it
want
was
to be so clear. Get like
um,
Ella said that like whoa, and I literally was like, okay, guys, I think you're being a little dramatic.
for my paddle. Yeah, no, I was like, God, I was like, I'll let them be happy about it because I
I
really
didn't
need.
want to say anything, but I was like, all right.
Especially not the, yeah, like, because I, everyone was like, I thought you were gonna knock them out. I was like, I actually can't express to you how not worried I was about that. Like, they were in their little holes, they were staying there. Sorry, not to talk about episode 1 on this podcast,
Yeah,
but
come on. This is a deep dive of episode 2, okay? And
sorry.
we sent Joe to
And we
exile.
did, and we did, and then Joe on Exile.
I'm
Let's talk about it.
listen. First of all, okay, let's start at the puzzle.
Yes.
Because I think this was a significantly easier
Uh,
puzzle than the fire
yes.
puzzle that Nick had to do last
Yes.
episode. And it
Oh,
seems like
also,
he kind of just gave up for the bit.
yeah, I think so. I I don't know. I don't know what his thought process was. Okay, I just want to say your editing was very great for that
Really?
section.
Oh, thank you.
The
What part? What part?
letters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you?
Nick helped with that.
Yes, I know. But you
Yeah,
had
but I had the vision and I said, I don't know how to do this, but help me out.
it looks good.
Um, so thank you, Nick.
But yeah, no, I agree. What was the no, never mind. I don't know if I should say, but the in case it is spoiler warning.
Okay. Okay. What for future episodes?
Yeah, I don't want to say something in case it's gonna spoil something without me realizing.
Okay.
But Joe obviously has a story happening.
Right. And we would be remiss if we did not discuss it.
Correct. Just he is off. He is in the cornfield next door.
I want to be so clear, not the property we should be
No,
on. He's
no, he
trespassing.
yes.
I don't think
And
he knows that he's trespassing,
no,
but
but
he
he's
is.
ranting and rambling about who wrote his name down at at the tribal, and he's a man on a mission to betray every single one of those people.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but not
that's
Nick.
no,
Thank
but
God he has Nick, because he
thank
knows he
God
would
he
vote
has
for him.
Nick.
And
When
when
he
he
gets
goes
back from
back,
exile, he's gonna be so ready to see Nick there and say, "Buddy, I'm
thank
so excited to work
God he's
with
got
you. I'm
him.
so excited to work with you."
Ooh. So, what's in the future for Joe? Obviously, we know, but
Yeah, so I feel like really he has Caroline and he needs to make some other allies or else he's gonna probably be next because it went, Olivia and Nick are on, so it's
yeah.
it's a precarious situation.
But
He
it,
really
it was very.
could
I
have
will
used
say
that.
it was very fun to watch. He got the thumbnail and the episode title,
What was
so
the episode title? Remind me.
they're all dead to me.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, very fun. So interested to see what he's got going on with the rest. I mean, he has a very fun little storyline, so stay tuned for
Certainly.
that.
Yeah. I think that he's the he's the one to watch going forward.
He's the
We'll
one to
see what
watch.
happens after his change of heart
Yeah.
on the tribe. So
Who knew this little Vanessa vote was going to cause
I know.
such
Certainly
distress?
not
And
Vanessa.
also so iconic of Vanessa to throw out
Oh
a
my God,
little
I
Hinky
know.
vote.
I love it.
And it did exactly what she wanted. She said, just to like shake things up a little bit. And
It
that's what we need.
It shook things up.
We don't need a unanimous vote. Throw a little
Mhm.
hinky vote in there
Yeah,
somehow just to see
I
what
feel
happens.
I do think you're right. I didn't really process the like need for everyone to be on the same page of like it's very Big Brother, you know, like we have to like run it by everyone, and if we can't get a true majority of people who like a true majority being like everybody like on board with it, then it's like what then we can't do it, which is like simply not true. It
Yeah.
kind of just defeats the purpose of being able to vote and, you know, win
Hmm.
over a vote with not everybody. But yeah, that's interesting to think about.
Yeah. And like even Caroline votes for Nick, which like
Hmm.
it makes sense, but
Yeah,
also if his shot in the dark did work,
yeah,
now there's no votes on the table.
right.
Caroline, if you want to be that one vote, you can decide who goes home. Oh, my microphone. Wait, sorry, hold on. I got a little too passionate. But Caroline, you can decide who goes home.
Yeah,
Maybe the shot in the dark doesn't work, but you can keep it under wraps that it was you. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Your
Throughout
vote
that
is
vote,
your vote is anonymous.
something to think about. Your
No
vote's
one has
anonymous.
to know.
But like, I think that would have been a decent play. I mean, I
I
know
think,
that everyone wants to like keep up this like we're
yeah,
all like kumbaya, blah blah blah, but fuck that.
yeah. I think that especially after playing 3 times, I am very much of the mind of like stuff like that is the way to move forward. You know, you have to make big moves.
You have to. Yeah, you do. And that's I guess that's really where we're gonna transition into our final point of Nick not being able to use the shot in the dark.
Sadly.
Very very sad. What are your thoughts on the whole ordeal?
I understand Zach's hesitation to rectify the situation, but it was his lack of explanation at this tribal that didn't allow Nick to play it. So I think that there should have been a special circumstance ruling of like, we just won't count Nick's vote and he can play the shot in the dark. But I
Yeah.
understand being in that, like, kind of feeling like you need to make a split second decision. And, you know, he did explain it at the first tribal. So he, in his mind, he's, you know, thinking everyone has the same information,
Hmm.
is operating on the same information, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Because of the exile aspect. So it was very unfortunate that it was ruled in a way that didn't let
Hmm.
him do
Yeah.
that.
I don't think that Nick did himself any favors by not like not that he needed to advocate for himself, but just like him being so like, no, 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 it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't do it, so blah blah blah.
Yes.
Like I'm sure
Yeah.
that that made the decision in one
Yeah.
way or the other, you know.
I was surprised at how, I mean, it makes sense. No one wants to like put up a fight really, but like I was surprised at how, you know, it was my fault sort of he was because it really
Yeah.
wasn't his fault entirely,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And like if this was real Survivor, like sure you should know that. Even if they had changed the rules, like you don't get to vote. Like that's part of it. But most of the people that are playing are not big Survivor fans. So like the intricacies of like what Shot in the Dark is like
Yeah.
can be confusing to a lot of people.
It's also just like obviously we are from a production standpoint a very like DIY situation. Like there are going to be mistakes made. Like it's not
Yeah.
going to be perfect. So the best thing you can do is to just pivot when you need to
Yeah.
pivot, even if it's not by the book of what you've said, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why it's tough
Yeah.
to,
And to
and it
be
can be
fair,
really,
I also thought that you just had to give the chip to
yeah,
Zach.
yeah,
Now, with that being said, I would not have voted in
yeah.
that case, but I know the game super well. So
Yeah.
like that's just me, but
Right. Like I think that Zach was hung up on the fact that
that he voted.
that he voted and he had
Yeah.
said that you give up your vote. But like that was said like at this point hours ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's tough.
you
Like,
just gotta
yeah.
take it out and like
Yeah. And
whatever.
it's not like the votes had been read yet. So it is pretty
Yeah.
unfortunate. I mean, at least it was only a 1 in 6 shot, so there's a chance it doesn't work anyway.
For
But
sure. But also like television, right? Like don't you want a little like,
yeah.
oh, is he going?
I
Yeah.
personally, as a player in that moment, like I wasn't there obviously, and I had no stake in what was happening with this vote, but I would have been totally fine for them to just take out Nick's vote and like
Yeah, and I think
just not
everyone
read it.
kind of was fine with
Because it
that.
hadn't, if they had been read, that would be a different
For
situation.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
But they had not been read. No one knew who he voted for. It would be very easy to just remove his vote from the ballot box.
yeah.
Um, and redo it. Not even redo it, just let him go get a scroll, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And listen, and mistakes get made, like Lord knows I made a lot of like missteps, as a host or whatever. Like it's a lot of pressure, so that that's just our
That's the
our
thing,
two
is like
cents.
being in that situation is hard.
Oh yeah, there's a lot on your shoulders.
Because your instinct is to just stick with the rules as written instead of, being like, oh, well, maybe this was because of this, so we can do
Yeah.
this.
And it's like a fine line because it's like where do you like let things like have a little bit of flexibility and where do you like stay
Yeah,
firm? So, you know.
definitely. It's a tough role to be in for sure.
Yeah, so I think with that, we will talk about our episode MVP. Do we have any
Yes.
candidates? Let's
I
do.
just realized right now that I didn't pick one.
Okay, well,
So
let's talk about
we're still new.
possibilities.
So let's talk about it. Let me think. Hmm.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go. I'm just
Okay,
thinking.
so here are the options that I have.
Mhm.
So Dom, I think the fact that he is like so leading this vote and like doesn't let anyone like move him and everyone is on board with it like by the end. There's something to say about that, you know? So that is an option.
Mhm.
I also think I'm really into the Roos and GMAC um positioning right now.
Yes, I agree. I think that I'm partial to Roos or GMAC out of those two. Um, but that also could be bias from witnessing their game firsthand. So that's the only, you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But I think I would probably go, I don't know, I would probably go Roos out of the two of them, but I don't know. What do you think?
This is hard. Because I think GMAC does more initially to
Mhm.
make those bonds happen.
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to actually lean GMAC.
That was my instinct, but I feel like Roos has he's mapping the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has his eyes on the dynamics that are happening. But
And I
honestly,
think that's
like
true. And
I
he's good at the talking. Like he makes people
yeah,
feel like he's like on their side.
I think that honestly, if we give it to them, we should just give it to both of them. Because I think that they work together so well that it's like kind of just like a a duo situation.
Look what I have. Congratulations, boys. Oh my
Boys,
goodness.
my boys.
Uh, Woo! Listen, you
Perfect.
came into this game together and you win episode
Episode
MVP
together.
together. Love
Slay.
what you're doing, guys. Keep it
Keep
up.
up the good work.
All
They're
right.
wait, what were the catchphrases? They're making it happen.
Making it happen.
Get
Get out there
out and
and
go.
go.
Get out there and go.
I think that was the second one.
I think that is what I said, which is
Yeah,
crazy. Okay,
incredible.
silliest goose.
Silly goose. Oh boy.
A lot of
Candidates.
a lot of silly geese today. Um,
There's a lot of silly geese. I think first of all of the aces for
oh yeah.
thinking that our exile strategy was
Yeah.
gonna do anything was
Yeah.
was not gonna like backfire on us.
Yeah.
That was
Horrible to
pretty
see.
silly.
Yeah.
Um, I guess let's take a tribe by tribe. Let's go there. Okay.
Okay, so I'm thinking from the aces, you have someone we discussed at length, Ella, who is going cuckoo bananas,
For
throwing
sure.
people under the bus. Nothing bad has happened to her because of that, but it feels
It's
like
very
it
silly.
is silly of her to do.
Yeah.
So I think that on the aces, I would probably be inclined to lean Ella.
Yeah.
But then on the flip, we've got the Lady Luck. I
For sure.
mean, of course, Nick goes home, so something to consider. Uh, but
Nick
I
goes
don't know.
home. He doesn't play his shot in the dark.
Yeah,
He could have done something with this alliance,
yeah,
but I think we also do need to talk about Caroline.
yeah. I think that's true. I think that Caroline was a very subtle, like, she just had the potential but didn't follow through with it, you know?
She's a subtle silly goose. It's
Yeah,
not like you watch it and you're like, haha,
yeah,
like you stupid girl. But I just think she is inherently in a position of power and she doesn't use it to her
yeah.
interests.
Yeah, it is interesting. Because
And
normally,
to me, I feel like, especially for someone of her caliber, I feel like that was pretty silly.
yeah, I think that's true. Okay, wait, but before we solidify, we also have to talk about Joe.
Oh my God, yes. I wasn't even thinking about him. Jesus.
Because I mean, like, yeah.
All right, let's wrap this one up. Joe, congratulations! You're the silliest
The
goose.
silliest goose of
I
the
think
day.
he filmed that hoping to get the silly goose of the
I think
day.
so. So I hope you're happy.
Congrats. Wow, that was honestly, I was on the silly goose for not even
We're not
thinking about
thinking of
him.
Joe. Yeah. I
I
think
was
it's
thinking too much about like what was happening on the tribes.
well, that's the thing about exile, and it's not something that we're used to talking about or like witnessing in our games. So it's like honestly forget that that person exists, like like for a bit because they're doing something completely different. You know,
Hmm.
they're not in
I
any of the
also
countries.
want to say that where he was in the first in the neighbor's property, um, was right next to our camp.
Oh yeah,
And all of a sudden we see this shirtless man
yeah,
walking next to us, and we're like, what the hell? Is that Joe?
and
Joe's gone crazy.
he's yelling at his phone like
Yeah, it was him doing the whole like, I don't trust
causing
anybody.
a ruckus.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
We were
So
losing.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, definitely silly goose
Yeah.
material.
I also think that obviously it's a silly goose material in the sense of like he's very silly to watch and stuff, but also like from a game, I know he's doing a bit, but from a game perspective, him getting so hung up on this vote is like so the wrong thing to be caught up with
Oh
in
yeah.
like what to do now, you know? Because
Yeah,
like you
good
said,
luck
Nick
with
is
that
gone.
one.
So good luck pivoting because
Good luck with that. But yeah, I think that's really it. Again, we're gonna try to get Nick at some point just to see where his head's at, about where he maybe went wrong, where he could maybe make things right next year, maybe.
perhaps.
Maybe in a future season, we'll see. Um, but yeah, that's all we have for you today. All right, new episode is going to be coming out next Tuesday. Do not miss it. It's going to be very interesting. And with that, the Mans are signing off.